Hey, welcome back to BLKcity Coffee, back with another video on how I came up with the logo for BLKcity Coffee. Thank you to Hillary for suggesting this video. I have a bag here that we're actually giving this one away to free, what was his name? It's like, well, to somebody on IG, on the IG profile, who, this is our first giveaway. I roasted this for a friend, but then found out like they don't drink coffee. I was like, oh no, and I already packaged everything and labeled the roasted and everything. And so I was like, I could drink it or I could give it away. But it was really cool, so I was like, cool, so let me just give it away, and now it's going home with you. Hopefully today we can get out to the post office and get this out to you. Check your DMs for my message to you, and thank you for playing. And thank you for trying our coffee. You know, that's pretty cool. How I came up with the logo was I just took a lot of things that were, you know, no hidden meanings or anything like that. The two prominent figures here are tigers, like old school coat of arms tigers, and I always love the idea of a coat of arms because it's like family or tradition or sort of purist idea that a coat of arms represents for me, and like how I've seen it translated into movies and whatnot. So I knew I definitely wanted to design something with a coat of arms, and I've always loved design. I've always played around with design. So I did this in Photoshop myself, and the reason why for tigers is because my zodiac year 1986 is a tiger, and I identify pretty like one for one. If if I were to look up my zodiac right now, I'd be like, yep, that's me. So I definitely identify with a tiger. I'm also a fire tiger in Chinese zodiac, and stuff like that. And it's not that I believe it like wholeheartedly, but I love like kind of getting into that. And I do identify with myself as being very tiger-like. I can be very aggressive and passionate and stubborn in a lot of ways. I could be a leader in a lot of ways, and I wanted to transfer all of these character attributes into my coffee. When I first started roasting coffee, if you've ever caught one of my earlier videos of like how I even started to roast coffee, it was really like I never thought it would be possible. It was always like a dream, and I'm not a very good dreamer, I wouldn't say. Like, even though I'm a tiger and I can be a leader in whatever I'm doing, I am very grounded in kind of like what I believe is possible for myself. I don't like to be in the clouds too much, and I think that goes into being disappointed in the past, and so I've learned to be quelled in my dreaming. The point being with that is that with roasting, I just never thought it was possible. So it's still kind of surreal, like talking about, oh, this is my coffee. It's my coffee. It's my roast profile, right? Like I roasted it. I can't say it's like 100% mine, but still, roasting your own coffee feels very special. It feels like you have more control or a hand or a brand or stake in it. I mean, you begin to identify with your coffee. And so for me, I've always been a sort of no frills sort of person. Like I'd never like to mix stuff. I like to consume things one at a time in its purest state. I do that with tea. I do that with whiskey. I drink whiskey neat before. I drink matcha tea, which is like the purest tea you can get, right? So I didn't realize this, but that's how I am. I'm a sort of purist about how I consume and look at the world, which can be a good thing and which can be a bad thing. And I try to find a balance for sure. But with my coffee, I'm pretty okay with putting forward a purist ideal, and to have a vision on where I stand with this coffee. And I would like to think that I make a statement with it. So I've got the two tigers. That's me holding up this coffee, I guess. That and it also kind of mirrors, the two tigers also kind of mirror that I'm kind of at odds with myself sometimes. Like I just said, like I'm a purist, but I have to realize that that purist mentality can be judgmental. Like I'm trying to get everybody to drink their coffee black, But I have to also be cool and let people go, or let it go that people want milk in their coffee or want sugar in their coffee. It's not like I never ever drank coffee with cream and sugar and milk and things like that. Sure, but if I'm placing a stake in the ground, if I'm standing for something, it's definitely black coffee, so that you can taste everything, right? Sometimes I get in the mood for something sweet, yeah. And I have to remember that. So those two tigers are sort of mirror that I'm sort of at odds with myself, but that I also, this is what I stand for. This is who I am with my coffee, and that's what I would like to represent. The next thing that we have in here is just like a basic coat of arms shield, I guess. That was nothing too much thought went into that. I have the mountains in here, signifying that a lot of the coffee that I roast is, I don't have a lot of choices for people because I don't have that capital. I'm just starting out. So I try to find beans that I'm confident that I can bring out good flavors in the coffee, because some coffees that are processed, like say naturally processed or honey processed or double washed processed, like they're a little bit trickier to make decisions when you're roasting. So they're a little bit harder, like the difficulty and scale in it, and it does differ from bean to origin to process to all that stuff. So when you're a roaster, you have to take into a lot of aspects into account when you're roasting, so that you could bring out the best flavors in a particular coffee. And have I mastered that? No, but I do know that that's what is going on when you take on the roasting process, and when you take on, say, this bean from Rwanda, or this bean from Costa Rica, or this bean from wherever. Like, there are all these things, moisture content, how dry is the bean, whatever, right? So there's a lot of technical aspects that go into roasting. So how I choose my coffee right now is just coffee that I know I can comfortably roast and bring out good flavors. In relative terms to my machine as well. Like, can my machine handle it? Some beans can withstand a really high temperature and need to be starting temperature. Like when you start roasting them, some of them need to be started at a very high temperature versus, say, a relatively low temperature, like say 380 degrees versus 420 degrees, right? So can your machine handle that? Another thing is, so let me get back to these mountains. So the coffee that I'm choosing, I'm confident I can bring it out, and most of the time I'm trying to choose beans that are at a higher elevation. So a lot of times if you go to, say, like Intelligentsia, Bodhi, Portola, you should be able to see the elevation of the bean. If not, like, look for it on the next time you go look at some coffees. Look at the elevation of where it was grown. So the higher means the denser the bean, it's going to have a harder time growing. So it's, it has a harder time. So the bean is denser. There's not much demand on the bean or the fruit when it's growing, right? So when that happens, it's kind of like wine. Wine, very similarly, if you grow wine in a terroir that is very difficult and the grape had to like struggle to get out of there and really, really reach for the water, really, really like reach for this, and it was almost stressed, it actually develops more flavor. It's kind of like life. So if you go through a lot of struggle and pain and strife and you're still alive, boy, you've been through some stuff, right? Like, you've been through something. And you're a stronger person for it. Like, if it didn't break you, it makes you stronger. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So kind of same idea with the coffee. So I try to pick ones that have struggled a little bit, have lived a little bit, just like me, a little bit higher elevation. This one is 2,000 meters above sea level, right? So it means it has to struggle. So it's going to have a lot more complexity in its flavor. And that's not always the case, but it's kind of like a general rule, okay? And so that's what the mountains are there in the logo. Had a long ass conversation about the mountains, okay? And again, we have the Black City. So with the name Black City, definitely I was like, and all this came to me within a matter of like 10 minutes, which was pretty crazy. I'm exaggerating, like 30 minutes, okay? So black, because I wanted people to drink it black, but I didn't want to spell out black, so I was like, what's an abbreviated version? Like, I don't want my domain to be very long, right? Because if I add coffee onto it, it's going to be that much longer. So I was like, okay, black, and the next word was city. City meaning I only wanted to roast light roasted coffee, which if you look in some other nomenclature of naming roasts, they sometimes call it city, city plus, full city, like this. Some people don't like that naming system because it's not very clear versus light, medium, dark, right? They're like city, full city, like, oh, that's like when you go to Starbucks and you order a tall and then what is it? It's like tall, I forgot what the middle one was, but then the largest one's like venti or whatever. So, and you're like, what is, it's a large. Okay. So same kind of idea of like the first roaster teacher that I had, he was like, I don't like the names city plus, full city, like that. And I was like, in my heart, I didn't tell him that I was naming my coffee like BLKcity Coffee. I like it, so I'm gonna stick with it. And then coffee, of course. And then in the bottom here, we have just little like graphics of the cherry, the coffee cherry, and the tree that it comes from. Ah, the tree of life. And then a micro roaster right there. So I was really just doing this on one day. It took me to come up with all this BLKcity Coffee. The domain name was available. I bought it right away. And then I made my logo, and I took a couple revisions, and I knew I wanted it to look a certain way. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, but I knew I would know it when I saw it. So that's the story behind the logo and the name, and I'm gonna stick with it and just see what happens. As for the label, like I write all of this information by hand. Because I need to have a fresh roasting date on there. But yeah, thank you for asking about, the logo and the name and stuff. That's always a fun story to tell. And yeah, so that's it. Follow the IG for maybe some more giveaways in the future. We're at BLKcity Coffee. And we have our Etsy store now, and I'm slowly building that out. And because this is not like our main business and stuff, I'm really just taking my time with it. But if you're watching this channel, if you've been following, like I'm about 7 months into roasting. I'm still fairly new, but I feel like I'm going to outgrow my roaster right now, and the next step would be maybe like a 1 kilo roaster. So exciting. I'm just, saying that is most likely coming, and I'm very excited for that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.